I'm here with a voice, the face of Tier, to talk about the latest record, Battle Ballads. I have a hard time with that one. Those double B's really kill me. Harry, thank you very much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. I thought maybe doing this over Zoom will be easier versus when you come to Toronto because it's always hectic on show day.
You're absolutely right. I'm glad you're doing this like this. And yeah, touring is unpredictable and it very easily gets more hectic than you intended.
Exactly, exactly. So I thought I would make your day a little bit better, not having to deal with me, and we would talk about the album over Zoom. And I have to start with the title of the record because it was something that kind of puzzled me once I pressed play, and it wasn't a Scorpions record from the '80s filled with ballads. So what inspired you to go with that title?
I didn't even think about it like that. Our entire thing with Tyr, or my thing at least, has been to use Faroese and Nordic medieval ballads as inspiration for the music, and of course ballads here in a medieval sense, as in a piece of music or melody and text that is of unknown origin. The music is so old, no one knows who wrote it or the melody or the text, and that has been our main inspiration since we started, and remains that way. I think most people who listen to Tyr regularly will know the distinction, but maybe new listeners, like you say, could be confused that it's the 80s and 90s hair band kind of ballad, but it's not, as people will see. So, but this was pointed out to me after we picked the title track, Battle Ballads. I think it's time to put the medieval back in ballad, and that's what we're doing here.
Make ballads great again. I love that.
How about make ballads medieval again?
Making battles medieval again. Once I pressed play on the album, first of all, I didn't think it was going to be an all ballads record, but once I pressed play, I honestly I understood exactly what you were talking about. It's all about storytelling. It's all about like battle hymns, almost to a certain degree. It's all about sagas. It's all about that, and I think that becomes extremely clear the moment you listen to the first note of the first song. How was the roadmap for you guys from the starting point with the first idea leading up to what this album ends up offering to the listener?
Well, compared to the last album, for example, Hill, we decided very early on in this process to make more concise and more straight to the point music, at least for the length of the songs. The rest of the songwriting is as usual. We try to make the best melodies and riffs that we can, and we just made an effort this time to keep it concise and straight to the point. Plus, we added the symphonic element as well this time, which adds a different dimension to the music. I think adds some epicness and some aesthetics. Um, we were all involved in the songwriting, all four band members, um, and that rounds it off nicely, I think, compared to when I do everything myself, which I've done a couple of times, and it doesn't always. It's not a very. It can be cool in its way, but it's not a very well-rounded way of writing music completely on your own. Um, so I hope people will agree that this is a somewhat easier to listen to album that still contains all our signature elements of epicness and melodic intricacies and whatnot.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I've posted on social media that people need to go and pre-order the album and pick it up because I think this is the best record you guys ever released. I know every band always aims to releasing their best record ever, but honestly, this is an album. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think I listened to this album at least 7 to 8 times straight on loop, and I wasn't bored. I wasn't bored. It was fun.
Thanks, man. I'm very glad you say that. I hope you're right. I'm glad you like it. I mean, so far so good. I mean, that's why we do it. If you know, if you think back to when you were young, and at least for me, when listening to the bands that were big at the time, you know, Iron Maiden, Metallica, Judas Priest, you know, how uplifting and just wonderfully life affirming it is to have music that puts you in that frame of mind, and to any person who has a good experience listening to our music, I can only say thank you. It's really my pleasure.
I didn't listen to the record for a full day because I was at some shows yesterday, and today I was doing the editing of the video because we're going to be doing a reaction video to the song Axis, and I was doing the edit, and when the song started, a smile came to my face the moment the song started, and I was like, I gotta go listen to the record again. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like, oh my god, like one day without listening to it, and I'm like, I'm feeling emotional that I need to go listen to it again. It's like a drug. I just need more of it.
Music is just the most amazing thing. It's the most it's the best non-chemical way of affecting your own mood.
Yeah, it is. It is. One of the things I noticed on this record was the production behind it, as everything else is outstanding. What did you guys? How did you guys approach the production side of the album, considering now that you have the orchestrations to deal with?
Well, the orchestrations were all done after we'd written the music. Since since Valkyria, I decided at least that we have to do our recordings on our own because it was simply getting too involved and too stressful to be in studio. So since then, we built up our own studio, and so that we record vocals, choirs, bass, guitar, everything on our own time without any time-wise stress, and then only the drums are recorded in studio. And I'm very meticulous about music. I put it together in a very classical way, and I write it down in notes, you know, notation as well. So I have everything to send to the guy who makes the orchestration, Lars Winter in England, and I send him the sound and the notations, and he can go straight to work without having to make you know, notations himself. I think that make his job a lot easier. And we asked him to try and get the classical arrangements inside our songs, so it doesn't sound like it's standing next to it or it's put on top of it, but so it sounds like it's an integral part of the sound. And he did his part beautifully. Then we, of course, we sent it to Jacob Hansen in Denmark, who has mixed all but one of our albums, and he did an outstanding job as usual. And I think it's from that level of organization and meticulousness that we get the sound that we have, and I, at least, I'm very pleased with it, and everyone involved did an outstanding job.
Yeah, I think it's the best sounding album you guys have ever done, honestly. And the way the orchestrations
Thanks.
are just a piece of the puzzle. They're not the puzzle. They're just a piece. And I think that's
Exactly.
key. And I think that's key.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've been it's a very old combination, classical music and orchestration. Deep Purple, Rainbow, and later other bands like Metallica and many other bands have done it, but not all have done it equally well. And with some bands, you get the feeling it's not inside, it's standing next to it, and it doesn't really blend that well. I um, Sometimes that even works. Sometimes that's the point of it. I don't know. I think I'm very pleased with how ours turned out.
We're talking about how fun this album is. I mean, it's fun for me to listen to. Was it fun for you guys to do it?
Yeah, yeah. This was I enjoyed it very much. The process of getting to work with the guys, as Gunnar and I have we've worked out a very good musical relationship, a good routine, and of course it's the first time we work with Hans, but it was a real pleasure. He's a very good guitar player. He's a good songwriter. He's a good singer, and turns out he's also a very good producer. Uh, Thaddeus, our drummer, provided some ideas for this album as well. And for the first time, I worked together with someone else on the lyrics. I've always written the lyrics by myself, but Tadeusz is a fellow linguist, and we worked on some of the lyrics together for this album, and I really enjoyed that. It brings, it's more than the sum of its parts. It's more than it would have been if I did it on my own or he did it on his own. So it all adds up to a much more rounded album, and uh, I think a higher quality result.
For an album like this, does the first song that you start working on have a great impact on how the whole album turns out, or things kind of work on a song by song basis?
Um, it's to a degree song by song, but as you make more and more songs for the album, you kind of start to see um, a trend in the way everything turns out, and you know what would not work, you know which lines to stay inside. So two other songs maybe we had before the last album was even finished, the Hill album, and some of the songs were written in the last moment here, and everything else kind of in between. Um, you kind of see from the start where the whole thing is going, and without even thinking about it consciously, you just stay inside that lane. Now the songs on this album are not all similar in that way, but it's all kind of arranged with the same technical, musically technical mindset. So it's going to sound like a concise album, even though the compositions themselves may be quite varied. So that was not a conscious thought, I think, ever through this production, but it just turns out that way, that you start to seeing it as one big work, not individual songs, and then uh, yeah, what we have is how it turns out.
This album definitely has a very nice blend of power metal and folk metal. The songs have, not all of them. You still have a couple of softer tracks, but most of them have this a lot of energy built into them. Is it easy to bring those two different genres together? Take the greatest qualities of power metal, take the greatest qualities of folk metal, and make something that still has the DNA of the band?
I think by now it's very easy. We've This is our ninth album, and our ninth studio album, I should say, and I've done a few other albums that are unrelated, and I don't think it gets worse. It gets easier and easier, and coming up with the basic material, or finding it in folklore or wherever, is there's an abundance of material, and the methods we've come up with over time are more and more refined in a way. I'm not sure that's the right word, but I'm sure you get what I mean. No, it's easy, and all it takes is time, and unfortunately also money. We all have to pay our bills. So there are some restrictions time-wise and financial, but if we had an abundance of time and money, I mean, we could do this for a long time to come.
We're talking about the sound, but I honestly need to talk about the vocals, because the vocals are not less than what the sound of the record is. I mean, you got backing vocals, you got choirs, you get a super strong vocal performance from beginning to end. It's a very complete album vocally. When it comes to the choir side of things, do you get more out of the choirs when you have that orchestration in the background? Do you feel like this album, one enhances the other and vice versa?
Absolutely. Is the orchestration just enhances the full thing, including the choirs. We recorded the choirs, we recorded everything before we sent it to Lars to add the orchestration. So he can already, when he makes the orchestration, he can hear the choirs that we have put on the album already, and he adds the orchestral parts to that. So, and it's just masterfully done. It definitely lifts the whole thing up to a new level. And also for our part of the choirs, I think the lineup we have now is the strongest four vocalists we ever had in the band. Gunnar, Thaddeus, and Hans are all good singers, and making the choirs was very easy. Arranging it is yeah, well, it's become second nature to me by now. Um, so we spent like 2 or 3 days in studio recording only choirs, and it just turned out as good as I could have hoped for. And yeah, like I said, with Lars's orchestration added to that, um, we're very pleased with it.
Your vocals sounded like a 20-year-old man that just got married, a young in his prime. What's the secret? I know you just got married, but what's the secret to your vocals sounding so fresh, so good, so youthful?
Thank you, thank you. It warms my heart. I don't know, man. I just always loved. I grew up listening to, Ronnie James Dio and Blackie Lawless and Bruce Dickinson and Ian Gillan and all those guys and Tony Harnell. It's the I can't help but try and put my emotions into the vocals, and like I said earlier, I have my own studio now where I can work in peace and quiet, and maybe that's one of the secrets actually, because by the time we got to Valkyria, uh, the whole race had become so hectic that I decided I have to stop this, or else I'm gonna die from a heart attack before I'm 50. So now having the time and the circumstance to do it alone on my own time without any financial or time-wise pressure. Maybe that helped. It's hard for me to say, but we write the best lyrics we can come up with, myself together with Tadeus, and I have the melody in minute detail before we even write the lyrics, so I know exactly what I have to do, and then I make a first attempt and it's hardly ever good enough, so I listen to it a few times, think about it, and then I try to put more and more emotions into it, as uh, the guys did when I was young, like Bruce Dickinson and Ronnie James Dio and Blackie Lawless, and I kind of aim for that, get some emotion into it, and maybe as for the physical part, I try to stay fit. I run a lot, I work out, and I try to stay reasonably slim, although that fails every now and then. I don't smoke, I don't drink. I maybe it all adds up. I don't know.
You sound like you discovered the fountain of youth. That's all I gotta say. Like I had to go check your bio because I was like, this man is not getting older; he's getting younger. So that's the only reason I could explain this incredible vocal performance.
Thanks, man. I suspect it's at least 50% genetic. I'm not sure there is any solution to this issue. It'll catch up with all of us in the end.
You've built an incredible legacy with the band, and with the legacy comes obviously fan expectations. Does that ever go into your mind when you're starting to work on a new album, in terms of what people expect you to deliver?
It does now, for two reasons. It didn't always do that. One is, if you want to be a professional musician, you have to keep it in mind. It doesn't mean sell out. It just means keep in mind that someone has to listen to this and like it, and the more, the better. Uh, so that was one of the reasons to keep the songs concise in a way, keep it, not test people's patience, as I said. And the other reason is, like I mentioned earlier, the meaning music had to me when I was younger. Um, Listening to Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Wasp and Black Sabbath and everything, how unbelievably uplifting it was, and what a life-changing experience it was to have that music around when you were going through, the teens and early 20s and everything. And just imagining now that our music, my music, might have the same effect on other young people today, or heck, people of any age. uh, I try to consciously make as uplifting and life-affirming music as I can, even though the subjects are very dark now and then. But hey, we all have to relate to that too. So those two things are on my mind while I write music. But after that, we just try to make the best music we possibly can. Um, I think it's possible to combine all those things without uh, any kind of getting close to any kind of sellouts or whatever you might be worried about in that regard. Those are my thoughts. Maybe I'm rambling. I don't know.
No, you're right on online. And with that best album to date in your back pocket, you're coming to North America just in a couple of weeks, starting a very long North American tour. How much of this album are you gonna put on the set list?
Not that much. We are restricted time-wise to a bit over an hour playing, and we now that we have 9 albums, there are a lot of songs people want to and expect to hear. Of course, we try to push the new album. I'm not sure I should put a number on it, but we'll play about a third of the album, um, and then we'll see for the future. I have to kind of figure out which songs do the best. It's very difficult to predict how well the songs are going to do, and very difficult to make sure you selected the right songs for the live show. So that's the plan for this tour, and then we'll maybe adjust it for future tours. We'll see. Um, so I've been to a few shows where bands are promoting their latest album and they start by playing 5 songs all from the latest album. I'm not sure that's the best approach. People also need to hear the good old songs that will, they will recognize immediately and sing along to. And people just don't have that with your new music. So you have to be careful of not overdoing it, I think. And make sure you don't play anything that hasn't been released yet, for example, because it's very difficult to sell something live that people haven't heard before. The element of recognition is very important, I think. So that's our plan for this one. Um, and fortunately, the timing of the releases and the tour are coinciding. It's very rare that we are so fortunate in the timing that we release the album while we're on tour. Usually the two don't coincide. So we really hope for a good run here. And if people pay attention, I think they will notice they heard all the new songs before the tour starts.
And how important is this market for you? The North American market is a big one. You guys have toured here before. The last time I saw you guys here, I think, was with Demons and Wizards, if I'm not mistaken. So how important is this market for you?
Very, very important, man. Our record label is in the US. The US is our biggest market by far. Um, it's a huge continent, of course. You can tour when you're done with the tour. It's time to start the next one if you want. So, and we got to know a few people there. You see the same people here and there. You get to know their faces and their names, and it's just wonderful to get back to all the places and see the people again and talk to them. It's a huge continent with very varied cities and landscapes. I'd love to see that every time. Also, get to some new places every time that we haven't seen before. So it's just it's a wonderful experience every time. Love it, absolutely love it.
It's a win-win for you. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in Toronto April 4th. I'm going to be in Norway. I'm coming back from Norway from Inferno, and I land and I pretty much just unpack and I go to see you guys. So because I'm not missing it, I can't miss this headlining show. Like I have to come to see you guys play live. I'm so excited, and I'm so excited for this album. Congratulations, you guys really outdid yourselves.
Thanks, man. I really
I'm telling
appreciate that.
everybody. I'm telling everybody that listens to me that they need to go and pick up this album. This album is phenomenal.
Thank you, thank you.
All the best, man. Take care. I'll see you in Toronto.
See you in Toronto. Take care.